for a while to tell you how I use props in my own practice and how I tell you how to use props during my classes, and what kind of replacements you can do if you don't have the actual thing, the real thing, if you want to call it that. So let's start with the yoga belt. So yoga belt is about a 5 centimeter, 1 inch wide ropey belt. It's got generally a bit of metal on one end, and on the other end it's got a couple of buckles, so you could turn it into a loop to sort of almost tie things up, tie yourself up, I suppose. They're really great for when you go into forward folds. I'll show you a few examples in a moment. If you don't have a belt, not to worry at all, because what you could use is, I've got a couple of variations here. You could use a towel, just any towel, and just roll it up quite thinly, lengthwise, so you're holding it quite long like this between your arms. That's perfect. Another option is just a t-shirt, and rolling that up again along the long side of it, so you can hold that between your arms. And the two best options that you might have at home will either be a scarf. So if you look at it, a scarf is a brilliant length, it's probably around the same length as the yoga belt, a little bit shorter. So that works perfectly. And another one which is possibly almost better is the belt of a bathrobe, because that's nice and thin, again almost as long as the yoga belt. So that's brilliant. Push those away. And what we do with a yoga belt or your bathrobe belt, for example, in a seated forward fold, we want to fold forward, so we sit seated in Paschimottanasana here, for example, and we want to fold forward. We want to hinge from the hip, keep our body nice and tall, and then hold on to wherever we can. If you can't reach your feet, you could hold your calves or your ankles. You can even bend your knees to make this more accessible and then hold your feet. But if you bend your knees, you're sort of taking the stretch out of your hamstrings quite a bit. So what I would suggest is that you take your yoga belt, put that around the ball of your foot, hold it between your hands so you're sitting nice and tall, and then you're hinging from the hip until you can't go any further. And you can then walk your hands up a little bit if you feel like I can go a bit further, and just really hold it here. And just to show you with the bathrobe belt, putting that around here, and see it's exactly the same thing. And then coming up and releasing our belt. A version of doing that in standing. So let's assume we're doing King Dancer's pose. So standing, bending one foot in, holding the outside of the foot here in this example, and bending forward, kicking in, going like this. If you can't reach your foot, you can just make a loop with your belt, your yoga belt or your bathrobe belt or your towel or whatever you have. Put your foot in there, and then wobbling in this balance, then go like this and pulling yourself up, coming out. So that's one option. And just to show you the version on the belly, how we would use it. So on the belly we've got bow pose, so we could kick our feet in, grab our feet, and then lift our chest and our legs up. But if you can't reach your feet, you can in here. Even I need to use a variation of my belt or an alternate, because I only have one belt, and why would you have more than one? Place that around my feet, down the other foot. And now I've got double belt, and I can do that if I can't reach my feet. So I think that's a really nice alternative there. I just wanted to share that with you. And then the other one that I wanted to tell you about are blocks or bricks. So yoga blocks are often either made of sort of a light styrofoam plasticky material or cork. I've got cork ones at home, and you can get them in this thickness, which is sort of a brick, it's often called, and then you've got thinner blocks that are about half as thick and maybe almost twice as wide, but even I don't have them at home because I would be nice, but I never really felt the need. And if you don't have a block, I would say a book is a really great alternative. Just getting a nice thick book. I mean, obviously I've got the block here so I can compare whether they're roughly the same thickness, but whatever book you get, especially if you use 2 blocks, make sure they're roughly the same thickness. And how we use blocks, I've got 2 for myself at home, but as I say, generally we use 1 in my classes. So if you've got a block, how you could use it is placing it below your seat when you're sitting cross-legged, and that can be a lot nicer if you've got quite tight hip flexors or your knees are hurting when you sit here, because it sort of lifts you up, takes a bit out of the engagement out of the pose. We use blocks quite a bit in standing balances. So for example, if you were doing a half moon pose, Ardha Chandrasana, you could place the blocks up in front of your feet. And as we lift one leg up, we place the other hand on that block. And losing my balance. Piling yourself up like that. If you didn't want to place your hand on the ground, that is. But also for other standing poses, if we go into a triangle, we're stepping back halfway on our mat, we're placing the block on the instep of our foot, going like this. If we didn't want to place our hand on our calf or thigh or on the ground even, or hold the toe. So that's a couple of versions of how to use this block. I hope this has been helpful, just to show you how you can use props, quick intro, and also what to use if you don't have the props, like a block, a big book for a block, or towels, bathrobe belts, scarves, t-shirts, if you don't have a belt. Yoga doesn't have to be expensive. You don't need all the gear. You don't need the most expensive mat in the world. You could use a towel for a mat. You can do yoga in just comfy clothes. If you're doing it by yourself, do it in your underwear. You don't need all the lycra or whatever. Yoga is for everyone, and I think seeing all the props that people have can sometimes feel a bit alienating, so I wanted to share that with you. Thank you.